Hello guys, hope everyone's doing okay. Yeah, so we're starting a new series, finally. Another digidouble in this case. So I wanted to do kind of another male portrait, but this time kind of do something that's a little bit more kind of normal, I guess. The issue I had with the Pero, as much as I like how it turned out, in terms of being like a likeness exercise, it was just quite excessive. I feel like it was almost easy in a way where, because the kind of expression was so exaggerated, it made it quite simple to kind of get it right, because it's just so kind of recognizable once you see that image. So I had to do another image where I can kind of focus a little bit more on the photorealistic rendering rather than layers of paint and all this environmental stuff. So yeah, I really like the work of John Singer Sargent. The way he uses lighting is something I've always really enjoyed. And yeah, so this is the image we're going to try to recreate. I've done a little bit of reference hunting, not a huge amount. I'm still trying to figure out some stuff. But yeah, I've done a little bit of hunting for images of John Singer Sargent, so we've got some photographs of him. We've got some images that are like more full body to get like general proportions, like weight and that sort of stuff. Some very basic research about the image, and then like his portrait work to kind of see, just to get an idea of like his other works to see if any of it could apply to what we're doing. So like, obviously we're going to be trying our best to match this, but if there's some shapes like the way he handles eyes in this guy and that sort of stuff, because this is a lot like clearer for the eye, maybe we could use this like for partial ref, just for the approach of the colors and that sort of stuff. But yeah, so other than that, a few other things. So the project, someone did point out, and I do agree with them, that this could be quite a boring project. Like the ones I normally do have something kind of different to them, whereas this is kind of getting back into that territory. Like every CG artist does portraits, and this one's not too unique in that aspect. So I'm going to try to make it unique in some more different technical ways. So one of them is the clothing itself. I'm thinking of not actually doing this photoreal. What I'm thinking is, someone in the comments mentioned, Kostya mentioned this technique. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, which is something I was kind of thinking about, but he showed me what the word is, which obviously made it a lot easier to research, so thank you for that, Kostya. He mentioned this, and obviously this is something that basically painters do by just removing detail, and doing that in CG doesn't really work because your lines are always 100% sharp. So in terms of getting that feeling of like, detail here and slowly fading away, I was thinking of having the clothing get increasingly distorted. So like it starts like near the face, it starts as a mesh that is shaded to look realistic, and as it fades away, it transitions to a volume render that is like increasingly distorted as you go down. So it would be relatively easy to do in terms of like, just the technical side. Artistically, won't be easy. It's just a case of having two meshes, one that has a transparency ramp going off and one that is volume being revealed by that transparency ramp. And volume displacement, because Arnold is really good at that. But yeah, so other than that, Becca pointed out this guy, Colin Davidson, the way he approaches backgrounds is like really nice. So this is something I'm going to see if there's anything I can do to mimic this effect. Obviously I can do a painted background, but I feel that kind of defeats the purpose of doing it physically based in at least some way. So we're going to see if there's ways we can kind of stretch out, get some really extreme kind of bokeh that's like high aspect ratio or something, just to kind of get like a painterly feel in the background without actually being a painting. But yeah, and we got some references. I got really lucky with this reference. It's a dude on a site who almost has the exact same eyes. Like they line up startlingly close. I did a lineup of them. Like the lines are identical. I was really confused, apart from this bit here. But yeah, and we've also done some research on eye color. This is the closest like real picture eye color I could find to what the painting seems to have. Obviously this is a bit darker, but I think that's the lighting. And then got some high-res images, because this is going to be another project where I really dive into eye rendering. I'm going to try to push it a bit further than the last project, because although the last project had its strengths with the eye setup, it's still very heavily reliant on some fakery, and I kind of want to get away from that if I can. So I'm going to try a bit more of an authentic rendering for the iris in this project, which will be a nightmare to set up, I'm sure. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, yeah, so I'm just gonna get on with sculpting. Obviously, it's gonna take a long time to kind of get this likeness right. I still haven't decided if I want to do marvelous designer for cloth, so that's something we'll think about later. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna move this off to the side, put it on my other screen, and we'll just yeah, just get started. Although actually, this is the bit I should have. There we go. Yeah, so if there are any questions, obviously feel free to ask, as always. At the time of the portrait, he was 57 years old, so obviously we want to get a little bit of aging in there as well. But let's just get started on this. I have made a... there we go. So I'm trying to remember what the... there we go. Cool. I'm trying to remember what the controls were for everything. But yeah, so let's just get that stretched out. Obviously all heads start kind of as a generic head for a while. Let's just go to geometry and go to Dynamesh, up this fair chunk. Cool. Now let's set this to a nicer alpha. Cool. So we're just gonna kind of carve stuff in basically. Need to stop pushing those buttons. But yeah, so let's get that in place. Cool. Then, so something I am going to struggle with is the jaw on this guy, just because his jawline is, I've never found a picture of it where he doesn't have a beard. So we're going to have to kind of keep it generic, I think. I might have to do a paint over at some point to figure it out. Really, I should get some 3D scan ref from like 3D scan store or something. Okay. Okay. I'll quickly change to basic material. Let's go into render, render properties, shadows. Okay. Bring this onto the same screen actually. Make things a bit easier for you guys to see. Let's just put it like there. Obviously, I'm aware this one's, I think, 10 years after this image. So I need to be careful with like that sort of image and how I use it. Obviously, the ear is way too large, but we'll get to that. Let's just change the focal shift in this as well. I quite like the move brush with a like 50 focal shift. I find it just feels more organic. Okay, do we have any images of lips? We may have to get some generic ref on lips. Yeah, I should definitely have some other references actually. Love it. Got this like pygmy skull thing going. It's a really weird like kind of stutters when I move this camera. Just realised it's somewhere I need to quickly post this. Copy that. Just gonna quickly black out my screen, one moment. There we go, 1 second. There we go. Right, let's get that closed. And then I can reopen the stream. There we go. Sorry about that. So while I'm at it as well, I'm just going to go into 3D Scan Store, and we're going to find some nice lip reference. Probably grab like this guy. Where's he at? If you don't know this site, by the way, it's an incredible resource. A guy called James runs it. My internet seems really slow today. There he is. I'm going to use this guy as kind of a good human ref. Where's he gone? There he is. Yeah, we'll use this guy as like a helpful ref. So I'm just going to drag some of these images into pure ref. So you literally just grab a few angles. Very low res. Oh yeah. Because I was grabbing the thumbnail, of course. There we go. Close that. Let's drag that tab over. Cool. So we can use this pretty briefly just for kind of blocking out the mouth and other areas like that. Although, I feel like I definitely need to fix my proportions as well. Let's quickly get the neck in place. He always had his neck covered, except when he was young. Probably keep the body as a separate piece for now, actually. Let's just cut that off. Modify topology, delete hidden, close holes. Where's close holes? There it is. Cool. Okay. So he did have a bit of weight, so let's soften that out a bit. And then we need to fix that view. And he looks like he had quite a round jaw. Like there. So we're going to want to bulk that out a little bit. Kind of quite a weighty lower face, I guess. There we go. Color the middle out a little bit. I'm going to change the color slightly as well. I always like to work with these kind of light brownish tones, like that. Okay, so I just find these easier to look at over time, so definitely need to pull that brow in. He's got quite his eyes are really far forward. I think that's going to be quite hard for me to get right. Obviously the proportions in general right now are really bad, but we'll get that right with time. Actually, his lid is quite lazy almost. And his bottom lid droops quite heavily. Okay. Just sketch out the lines. That bottom lid is very soft, but I had to get the line in the right place. Let's just trim dynamic that back. It's not too distracting. We will have to sculpt a body at some point, because if I do decide to do Marvelous Designer for clothing, then it's going to be very reliant on the body being there. Have you referenced without a mustache or a beard? No, so I couldn't find any photographs of him without a mustache or a beard. So I'm using 3D Scan Store just as a baseline. I'm going to use this guy as my kind of primary face ref because he seems to be a similar-ish age. His jaw is a lot more defined than what I can tell of his. But he's still kind of helpful ref, just kind of like, you know, get a mouth that feels correct and all that sort of stuff. So we'll get that. We'll work on it area by area and see what we can get and what we can't. So I think these are pretty similar age, so we'll quickly just focus on the orbit of the eye a little bit. I feel like my entire head is leaning backwards a little bit. Let's just rotate. So let's get that. So this line is quite steep, this one right here. And then it kind of curls up about there. His cheekbone is really soft around that. Okay, so this jaw is so pronounced. Let's just pull that back. Okay, so orbit the eye. Let's try to get this right. That needs to be hollowed out. Then it seems like overall it's quite smooth. So I feel like getting this line correct is going to be a bit difficult. I also feel like mine's rounding off way too slowly. My eyes are too close together, it's probably not helping. Oh yeah, his eyes are very shallow, which I'm finding kind of interesting. That's the thing, like, I always find the faces that I'm attracted to in terms of like doing as a project always have something very, very, like, not unusual, because obviously there's loads of people with shallow set eyes, but I don't like doing people at like conventional, like, beauty standards, exactly. Like, I just get so tired of seeing like the same, like, attractive woman, attractive man, muscular sculpts that everyone does. Like, they're great sculpts, but I just get so bored of it sometimes. But I don't necessarily need the person I'm portraying to mean something to me. But I like them to be at least somewhat interesting to look at. Because attractive people are obviously, yeah, sure, they're interesting to look at, but it's a different thing. The area I'm struggling to figure out... Oh, I actually need to change my focal length. Come to think of it. So this bit needs to be bumped in a little bit. And this, I feel, needs to be lifted. This is definitely lower than I've got it. Although I can't tell if that's down to the shape of the eye, if it's down to the position of this. I think it's the position of this. Exactly, I was just saying, I'm glad you're making a historical figure. Yeah, I feel like that might end up being the direction I go in, honestly. Like, as an artist, just like remaking historical figures. Granted, I will never be as good at it as, oh god, what's his name? There's an artist who's insanely good. He worked with Sefki Ibrahim not too long ago. But he's primarily known for doing like celebrities, but he did like Mozart, Bach, and all those. And he's really good at... God, what's his name? Is it Hamdi? Hamadi? I'm struggling to remember his name off the top of my head, but in fact I'm going to find it right now because I think he's one of the only people I follow on ArtStation. And I'll share that just in case you guys don't know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Oh, Hadi. Hadi Karimi. He's insane. Like, I'll never be as good as this guy for historical figures. Like, there's something about his work that's quite, like, magical. But those generic big eye cute girl faces in ArtStation get likes, they do. And to be fair, again, like, the work, I'm not hating on the work, I just find for me, I can't just be bothered doing that. Like, I find it just, I don't know, just so exhausting. Like, we spend all day on social media looking at very attractive people, right? I don't want to get home and spend hours of my life dedicated to making them. This bit needs to be hollowed more. Do we have any clearer photos of his eyes? God, his eyes are so shallow. Mine are really bug-eyed. This is going to be something actually that I probably will mess up quite a lot, which is there's a huge difference between shallow set and bug-eyed. Like, there's a huge difference. Like, I think the primary factor that differentiates them is that, in my mind, bug-eyed is a lot of the eye being visible, like in terms of the circumference of it, like a lot of that being, or diameter, I guess, being visible. So in this case, that's like, what, almost 90 degrees of visibility. So that suggests that my eye is sculpted too small in this case. But shallow set is just a normal eye shape shifted forward, basically. But yeah. So I find doing that sort of stuff helps quite a lot in that sort of way. I feel like I'm slowly making Andy Serkis. But yeah, so I do have to remember that I am doing this first and foremost. Yeah, this bit definitely needs to be deeper set. Right, should I move on to a different area? I think we should move on to a different area. Come back to the eyes, although I will quickly correct that, because that's going to bother me. There we go. Well, I say correct it, it's not exactly good right now, but let's just get some thickness of the eyelids, less rounded. Cool. So it's working for me. That kind of secondary lip that my eye has is kind of weird. I'm literally just making Andy Serkis. It's kind of weird. Okay, so let's go back to... I feel like my face needs to be longer. That's probably one of the factors right now. Oh, my tallest point of the eye is way too far out. Feels a bit more generic now, but I guess it's less like a different person, so it's an improvement. Okay. Let's do a little bit of work on the nose. And for the mouth, we're going to have to switch almost entirely to the 3D scan store ref. I need to buy some stuff from James, actually. I've been kind of following him on social media for so long. We occasionally interact, but definitely need to put some kind of financial support into it. He doesn't need it by any stretch, but like he puts out consistently great stuff all the time. Right, so let's get that. Okay, so let's get mine's just a shark fin. Like, Jesus. Oh, they need to do that. I can already tell I'm going to struggle on the nose, and I don't know why. He's got quite a unique nose. That might be the reason, but... Something I'm going to have to quickly do is going to stroke, lazy mouse. I'm going to turn down lazy step to like 0.01. That's going to make my brush a lot stronger. but it's also going to reduce the dots. So I can just change my intensity to compensate. There we go. It gives a much smoother effect now. The mouth is so malformed. So feels like his nose is more dominant here than it is here, so I'm just gonna shave that back a little bit, add a little bit here. It's so funny looking. Definitely need to fix the skull at some point, but I feel like the mouth is probably what's throwing me most right now, so let's figure out the mouth. First off, it's way too close to the nose. Nose is also a bit too wide. Okay, let's pull you down a little bit. Something like that. I'm giving this like really dominant lower chin, which I need to fix. Okay, let's jump over to Alpha F McGee. It's gonna no 3D scan store. And then I'm just gonna put buy his shit. There we go. Perfect. Right, okay, so I haven't saved yet. Let's quickly save. Let's go to CG stuff, projects, personal projects, John Singer Sargent, modeling, ZBrush. Let's go with block out. I'll call it block out until we have topology. Yep. And what I'll do, I'll let this save, and then I'm just going to go into where is it? Preferences, undo history, enable saving, and that will just cut down my file size a lot. So this is 450 meg. Now it's 44 meg. Saves a lot of space. The Pero project ended up taking, I think it was close to 50 gig by the time it was done. Something I'm definitely worried about in this project is accidentally making a really generic mouth. I still need to find... I do need to do a little bit of research to find out, like, are there any photos that exist with him not having a beard? Like, if someone famous is watching this and you want CG artists to be able to remake you in the future, long after you're dead, shave your beard at least once in your life, and it'll make it a lot easier. Very niche problem to have, though. Just hollow that out. Hollow out that area. It's really bumpy. I've accidentally got a subdivision at some point. Okay, delete lower. Let's go to... What the hell is it? Don't mesh. There we go. Cool. Okay. That definitely needs to be pulled back a little bit. And let's just get in a little bit of a crease. Not like that though. Okay, actually let's check some other knife angles. Like that one, it's pretty bad. Do we have any information about lips? I guess we can see a little bit of lip there. It doesn't give us much, but it tells us like kind of where things line up. See, my eyes are probably a little bit too far forward right now. That's a very steep angle. Either that or my brow is too far back. I think it's the brow being too far back. Like that. Yeah, there we go. That kind of does it. So I just need to pull that down. So this bit definitely needs to be pulled in, which means that this is supposed to be narrow. Like that. His nostril and the tip of his nose have a bit of an S-curve. This thing. Yeah, they do. Definitely something we'll be trying to capture. His forehead is remarkably flat, actually. I feel like I've pronounced this bump a little bit much. Right, let's try to get a little bit moving on the ears. Just use them as reference for a little while. Luckily, he never grew a beard over his ears. Very, very kind of the man. Go. Why are so many groom artists good at sculpting? And I wouldn't say I'm good, honestly. Like I've done it a lot. Although there is definitely a thing of groom artists being quite decent at modeling more often than not. And honestly, and I'm probably gonna get flack from some groom artists for saying this, but I feel like a lot of us is like failed modelers. Because like a lot of the people who go into groom didn't necessarily plan on being a groom. A lot of them started in modeling or different areas, because groom is still quite a new field. And groom has a lot of transferable skills with modeling. So my perspective is that, like, I spent years wanting to be a modeler. Like, I never planned on being a groom artist, it just kind of happened. And so I did like, you know, daily sculpting for like months at one point. I did at least 2 hours of sculpting a day for like 6 months when I was in uni. And because I really wanted to be a modeler, but then when time came to actually getting a job in the industry, NPC reached out with a groom job. But when you're actually in the job of groom, a lot of what you're doing is looking at volumes. Like you spend a lot of time looking at volumes. So there's a certain element of like, obviously guide work includes flow, which is kind of an abstract modeling concept where you can get a feeling of rhythm into your sculpts or into your shapes. And that's something that groom have to get really good at because hair flows a lot. And with us, it's a lot more literal. But you can apply that to sculpting. So like there's a life drawing tutor called Glenn Villepeu. Probably butchered the name. But he talks about rhythm in life drawing. And I try to apply that same stuff to my sculpting when I can. Granted, it's not really conscious at this moment. Like I don't really practice modeling enough to be able to kind of keep that stuff consciously being something I do. But yeah, the original question, I'd say honestly, is because a lot of us were gonna be modelers, and it just ended up being groom artists. Because there's just so many transferable skills, it kind of ends up being that way. This isn't the anti-helix, this is the helix, right? The helix of the Earth. This is so chunky. But yeah, because the thing is, like, what you said as well applies the opposite way. Some of the best modelers end up being actually pretty decent groomers. Like, there's definitely some skills that don't overlap. There is some stuff unique to groom that you have to have a kind of different mindset for. So not every modeler will be good at it, but then not every groomer will be good at modeling. But like, sometimes you see like top level modeling artists just like attempt to groom and their first one is already beautiful. It's because they really have a strong understanding of shape. Like modelers are kind of one of those super artists where modeling forces you to develop just an insane eye. And that will help you regardless of the department you go into. That needs to go way up. I can't help but laugh when I see ears in their like middle stages. This is so weird looking. It's mainly a me problem, not an ear problem, but the way I sculpt it always ends up with this really chunky thing. I mean, the way I sculpt most things, it kind of ends up chunky for a while. Art imitates life, I guess. Your boy be chunky. Hey Oscar, how you doing, man? Yeah, long time no see. I'm streaming really early today. I think I might get into the habit of like doing morning streams for Saturdays. Kind of start your day off, and then if I get frustrated by my work, at least I've got the whole day to kind of go on walks and shit. Because I know that this project will be a frustrating one. I'm prepped for that already. Maybe I'm being a pessimist, but these sorts of projects always end up dragging a bit. Digitables just take so long to get right. Like, you can do a digitable quite quickly, but you can't do a good digitable quickly. Unless you're, like, godly, like, skilled at what we do. Which I'm not. I'm just an artist. Let's get... That needs to do that. Stuff like that. Been doing some hard surface spaceship modeling. Nice, man. But I really struggle with going from main block out sculpt to detailing. Yeah, like, hard surface stuff is way out my realm. I have no idea how people do that. Like, people like Andrew Hodson, like, the shit that they do just blows my mind. It's really sloped. In fact, this earlobe is way too chunky. How didn't I see that earlier? This song's kind of reminding me of Anomaly a little bit. If you've never listened to Anomaly, by the way, do yourself a favour and go listen to him. He's a keyboard player. I think he's France. France? I think he's France. I think he's French. How's life in Canada? Yeah, pretty cool. I do quite like it here. Yeah, I moved to Canada a little while ago now, just before the new year. Been working here for a little while. It's been, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Really, really enjoying being back at NPC as well. I know the reputation of the studio isn't great, but I've had really great treatment here. I mean, hell, like most of my career has been with NPC, and I've been quite fortunate. Very well treated. Got some potentially very exciting stuff on the horizon job-wise as well, within NPC. That's not me hinting at leaving NPC. This needs to be pulled way back. This entire area is way more open. Okay, so it's like weighted down here, but kind of... Check that front angle, because that one's getting kind of messy. See, I'm aware, something to be aware of with ears is they change a lot throughout your life. Like, a lot. So, with ears, try your best to stay within, like, a certain age range with your ref. If you're doing a likeness. It's like earlobes, like, if I remember correctly, earlobes just never stop growing. They're always getting bigger. Which makes sculpting ears an absolute fucking nightmare. Well, likeness sculpting ears, I guess. That really bothers me. I need to look at some skull reference soon to get a general idea. This project, I think, is going to be quite groom heavy to like get it feeling right. Because facial hair is one of those things that's quite hard to get right. I've done facial hair successfully a few times professionally, but it's something that in personal work I've never got quite right. Or like freelance work whenever I've done that. Hope I'll be able to find a job in the industry somewhat soon though, or two. I'm not entirely sure if I... Suspense. So much suspense right now. Let's pull this in. Have the earlobe kind of kick out more. If I'm doing myself a favour with Blender but can't afford to spend €300 on software for the privilege to keep learning it. Yeah, I really don't like that. I mean, I think you get 1 year after... In fact, yeah, I think you get 1 year after university to keep using Maya or Max. I think you used Max, right? If I remember correctly. Because you're more kind of architectural hard surface stuff. Yeah, 3D definitely gets more expensive. I've spent an ungodly amount on software over time. Granted, there's people out there who've spent way more than me. Hell, comp. I feel bad for comp. They have to spend a lot of money. Because, like, getting color correct monitors and that sort of stuff is not cheap if you want good ones. And plus, obviously, like, Nuke licenses or whatever tool they use. Granted, I'm aware that Nuke is the most expensive of the tools. There are cheaper ones, but Nuke is the standard, so... VPN and torrent is a solution. Legally, I can't say I agree. Oh, to be fair, I've never actually really torrented anything. Like, there was a little while, disclaimer, I've since paid for it. There was a little while in university where I really wanted to use Marvelous Designer, like for the sake of learning it. So I had Marvelous Designer 4 torrented. But then, obviously, I've bought a license now. I bought it just before they got rid of Perpetual. And so I've got Marvelous Designer 9 on my PC. I think that's the only tool I've ever pirated. I didn't make any money of it, so there's the legal disclaimer. Like, I've continued to, like, work with it over the years and kind of learn it, although I never really got good with it. Hell, even the version I paid for, I still haven't made any money on it. There's also a free version of ZBrush that you can get. I think it's ZBrush Core Mini, which, although yes is massively stripped back, is still enough to kind of learn sculpting. Because I think it has like the clay build, it has all like the big brushes, but I can't remember what the restrictions are. The restrictions are harsh, if I remember correctly. Right, let's go back onto this guy. Snake Hook. Snake Hook is a brush I don't use often enough when sculpting. It's so powerful. It's one of those brushes that can force whatever shape you need. Like, it doesn't forgive. Like, it just does what you ask it to. That needs to curl up. Oh shit, yeah, that curls up a lot faster. It's almost going like that way, while the earlobe is continuing down that way. Hate that glitch. Okay, let's just bump that in a little. Let's try to get a bit of that overlap going. Okay, so this tube is definitely wrong right now. This doesn't feel like a tube. And I'm aware this bit needs to soften out basically here onwards, but we'll get back to that bit. Okay, and then that bit is super thin. Like really thin, holy shit. Okay, this entire section needs to... In fact, let's do Snake Hook for that. That's not Snake Hook. There we go, that's Snake Hook. Okay, and let's just bump you up a little bit, and then soften you in. Totally feel like side effects free version of Houdini. Also allows you to export VDBs. Yeah, Houdini Apprentice is great. I actually recently installed it because I might use Houdini for this project later on. I do have a very slight temptation to not renew Maya, because Maya is due for renewal pretty soon. Like, it'll definitely be renewed during this project. So let's just... That area needs to be way more relaxed. So it's stretched out almost. Okay, need to pull that in a little bit. That'll do for now. I'm gonna keep that as V1, start moving on to V2. Yeah, no, Blender's a great learning resource, I'll give it that. I'm still not entirely keen on Blender, personally, but it is an incredible resource for people. That's absolutely, no one can dispute that, and if anyone does, I think they're a bit of an idiot. The reason I don't like Blender is because currently there's a little bit of an issue that I'm increasingly noticing, which is, and it's not like the community and all that shit, because that is still true, the community can be very toxic, but so can most communities at times. My issue is that there's a lot of, so like, all the headline features Blender has, and it does have them, and there is some stuff that Blender is legitimately like leading in, so I really, really like its 2D and 3D capability. Like, the fact it can do both 2D and 3D animation is fantastic. And obviously, all this being, while it's free, also great. The problem is, there's a lot of tiny things that kind of, for me, would just get in the way all the time. So, like, a friend recently pointed out that they only just added the ability to select edge loops in UV mode. So, like, until literally, like, a few weeks ago, Blender wasn't able to select edge loops in UVs. Like, that's one of those really small things that you don't think is a big deal until you need to do a lot of UV work. I'm aware there's plugins you can buy, but then you get into the issue of, okay, well, Blender's free, yeah, great, but you have to spend hundreds on plugins to make it, you know, compete with the top dogs. And top dogs aren't even Maya anymore. Like, Maya's the industry standard, sure, but that's just because it's kind of embedded in pipelines. Like, the big boy now is Houdini, in my opinion. Okay, let's try to get that S shape that you mentioned earlier. Yeah, I'd love to hear like your opinions, like in terms of, because the chat's actually quite active today, which is great. Shows how bored people were at the last project. Well, it could be a time thing, who knows? But it'd be good to hear what you guys think about Blender and like what currently, like what it does well, obviously, and what it doesn't do well. Because they're definitely taking like development a bit more seriously these days. Like, they're getting, like, the latest updates have been like almost mostly pipeline focused. The GeoNode thing is quite nice, yep. Okay, this line here needs to be a little bit sharper, doesn't it? Does he have a visible Adam's apple, or does he have a little bit too much fat? Is his Adam's apple ever visible? So this is him when he's younger. Just noticed something actually. My forehead doesn't have this kind of two bump thing going. Let's just do a very, very subtle, like that. Maybe not that subtle. This area is getting really a bit much. There we go. It's better. Let's quickly fix that front view of the ear. Okay, so that's a bit pronounced. Bit long, isn't it, the neck? So we've got a generic head at this point. It's not good by any stretch, but it's gonna slowly start to work. Whew. We've at least got stuff to play with. I guess that's one of the things that's worth mentioning actually, is like if you are new to CG, like I can't remember who it was said to. There's a quote, I can't remember if it's specific to CG, like in terms of like who said it, or if it was like a generic kind of, you know, like life advice type quote. But basically, a problem that people run into is that they're scared of changing things because they don't want to make a mistake. And yeah, I think it was a CG thing. So basically, there was supposedly a junior. In fact, let's not worry about details because the message is the same. If you don't do anything, then you don't have anything to fix. If you do something, then you've got something to fix. Like, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, you can compare it to where it was, or you compare it to the reference. I think the context was, like, Junior refusing to do stuff for days and days and days, like, just not getting it right, or, like, kind of scrapping things all the time. And eventually got to the point where the lead was just like, you know, can you do something so I can tell you how to fix it? And that was kind of... I remember when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I tried to apply it to my own work in terms of like, I'm not worried about something looking really bad, because if I make something look bad, I can at least have something to fix, which is so much better than just always running in circles and deleting stuff. I know quite a lot of people who need to kind of learn that, honestly. Like, where It's okay to make something bad. Just if you're not happy with it, keep it. Like, don't just destroy it and make a new all the time, because that doesn't always work. It can work, it doesn't always. And then if you come back to it with fresh eyes later, you can see what you did wrong, and then you can fix it, and then you can be ahead of where you would have been. Very generic feeling face right now. My cheekbones are way too pronounced. They need to be sharp, but they don't need to be pronounced. Okay. Would you consider working on a project from a written description, a fictional character from a book? I mean, I considered doing it. I wouldn't think I'd be very good at it, because I'm not a character designer. Like, my skill is on taking something and turning it into something different. Like, Sticky Monsters, for example, turning that into what it turned into. Like, although you could argue it's kind of character design, I wouldn't be able to design something from scratch. Like, I'm just not skilled in that area. Character designers scare me, honestly. They're so good at what they do. But, like, yeah, I feel like I'd be happy to give it a go at some point, but I'd probably end up being frustrated by the end of the project. Let's check if we've got the depth right on this guy. So this isn't a perfect 90-degree turn, it's something to kind of keep in mind. Now we can see this brow when this one doesn't reach a silhouette, so we know it's not perfect. So it's probably close to that. I think ours... Oh, this lower side is definitely nowhere near soft enough. I feel like this needs to be pulled forward slightly. I'll try to get the eyelids a bit more correct. This side needs to droop more, doesn't it? I always end up doing hooded eyes. Looping back to the start, maybe we should, maybe the next project should be an attractive woman. So I can learn how to do subtle forms rather than the kind of shit that I always do. It's good to vary up your art style from time to time. I see so much, like, with students especially, like, I see people just sitting in their own art style all the time. Obviously it's good to get good at, like, a style, because then that can become, like, your bankable thing, but I feel like it's better to be able to do multiple, right? Unless you got an incredible niche that other people can't do and will make you a shit ton of money, and that you really enjoy, more importantly. Pull that back a little bit. is such a weird form. You need to kill that form off because it's just making like a weird donut shape. It's a weird form. Let's focus a little bit in the corner of the eye. So that needs to be in there. Okay, let's subdivide. So we're now at that stage, 3.9 million. I'll say we're now at that stage, we're really not, but we're at a point where some of the stuff I want to tweak at this point or figure out is now reliant on these sharper lines. Didn't mean to do that. Need to pull that in. It's frustrating that the corner of his eyes are almost never visible. How does he paint them? That's something I need to get actually as well. Let's just get that in quickly. So this innermost bit needs to be pulled out slightly so we can flatten out this bit here. Round that in. Guide the forms in. That's really bumpy. Are you going for photorealism with this one again? Yes, kind of actually. So the face I want to be photorealistic. The top of this collar and this, like maybe the top of the shoulder, photorealistic, and slowly fade to being less and less realistic. To the point where the bottom of this I kind of want to feel really ethereal, or ethereal, where it's like kind of smoky and distorted. I want the focus to be on the face, and this word here, suggested by Kostya, is what I've been trying to find for a long time. It kind of, yeah, it will help quite a lot. But yeah, so kind of this effect is what I'm thinking on the cloth. In fact, I've got an image that I sent to a chat. I'm just gonna look for this on the other screen. Let's see if I can find it. I did some very brief tests like last week. Where are they? Oh, it's in that chat, was it? Which one was it? Yeah, so I plugged in the mask from my last project and from Sticky Monsters, to kind of get this volume effect. And I quite like this. This is obviously not right, but I quite like this, how we're losing all the information from that model. If I can figure out a way to make this a gradual transition from something that renders realistic-ish to something that looks like this, I'll be happy. Granted, this is literally just a noise. I will spend more time making something that looks a bit more interesting, maybe something that looks a bit more like a paint stroke. So that's the kind of non-physical side that we're going for. So it's kind of like a... So it'll be a cloth shader. Basically, the way that I'll approach it, Oscar, is I'll have two meshes. One of them will render... Like, the whole thing, the entire body will render with a realistic shader. You know, with all the surface details, all that sort of stuff. And it will have a transparency ramp on it, so that as it gets away from the face, it might necessarily be a ramp, it might be a map that I paint. And as it gets away from the face, it slowly becomes more and more transparent. The second mesh will be the same exact mesh, displaced inwards a tiny bit, but rendered as a volume. So as the surface fades away, naturally you're going to reveal the volume. Once the surface is fully faded away, then I can start adding displacement to that volume. So I don't have to worry about it poking through the model at any point. But at the bottom it'll start to get that more chaotic thing, and naturally through that transition from surface to volume, it's already going to lose detail. So the transition of detail is already kind of handled by that. It's just a case of figuring out how to make that transition look natural and not just like a linear ramp. Because that sort of stuff bugs me when I see it, like, quite a lot. This guy's too old to really use as proper reference. Although, this stuff is interesting. Let's just have a quick look. Is there any hint of that? There's this. Okay, let's get that in there. Okay, and this is like this dent, which is like there. Still sounds complicated. Oh, it is. It's absolutely. It's more complicated than it needs to be. Well, I guess for the effect, the setup isn't too complicated, but in terms of like actually doing it for a project, yeah, definitely more complicated than it has to be. But I'm kind of at a point now artistically where if my personal project doesn't really push me in one area, I don't really see it as a success. Even if it looks good, like, I just don't care. I'm really acutely aware of the amount of stuff that I don't know. And definitely getting a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, not right now, but over the last like few months I've noticed it creeping in a few times. Where like some of the stuff that's happening at work, which I'm not complaining about by any stretch, there's some stuff like pushing me forward career-wise. But sometimes I just feel like I can't remotely do what people think I can do. I'm just kind of like forcing myself through it each day. But it's fun, and it's definitely a learning environment, so it's something I'm very thankful for. But yeah, I've definitely been getting a bit of imposter syndrome recently. I don't have it on the project right now because this is still extremely basic. I'm not really like worried about imposter syndrome with this exactly. Okay, that's quite a soft blend, so let's... So something I've got to interpret as well is, how do we interpret the simplicity of the painting's forms versus the simplicity of the real forms? Like, obviously, yes, we're going to make this photorealistic, but we still, well, as close to photoreal as possible, but still need it to feel like the painting, right? I could do a certain amount in comp, or in kind of after, like in post. But I'm not sure how it will all go. Let's just get that pulled in. Okay, so we're going to need to really sharpen this line. So we need to start getting that thickness of the lid. So it's like relative to that correct now. So one really fortunate thing with like copying John Sargent's work is he's such a good painter that yes, there is some certain element of stylization to this, but you can trust that the placement of the lines is probably still very accurate. Imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome is like feeling you're not up to speed with everyone else and have the fear of not being good enough. It's not necessarily being up to speed with other people. In my case, I'm interpreting it as I'm not up to speed with what people think I'm up to. Like my reputation is better than how I perceive myself to be artistically. That's the way I'm interpreting it. It's kind of like I'm not what you think I am kind of thing. Okay, let's get the inflate brush on that a little bit. Is there another inflate brush? I know there's an inflate balloon brush somewhere, which is really nice. Already spinning my gears on this part of the model. It's not a good sign. This ends so much sooner than I have it ending. There. And then as a result, that needs to pull down now. That needs to push up slightly. I need to bring in my secret weapon now. You're gonna love my secret weapon. It's append, sphere, import. This is a to scale head. So let's just get this scaled up. It's obviously extremely simple, but the eye spacing is correct. The eye size is also correct, so. Oh. There we go. So that head is now approximately the right size. Very approximately. At very least close enough where my shaders should work correctly. Let's save that. Will the file size increase when I do this? No. Cool. I've always wondered if scale actually affects the size of the file. Because, like, surely it does to some extent, right? Let's get rid of the butt that we've accidentally sculpted. This sounds like Tom Mish. let's fix the eye shape itself. Okay, let's work on the ears a little bit, using this ref just to kind of get some more solid idea of the forms, how they connect. For example, this is completely fictional apparently. Never assume you know what something looks like. It's a trap that we all fall into. But I've sculpted so many ears at this point and I still don't get it right. Feels a lot better. Okay, so naturally this needs to be pulled in now because we've lost a lot of volume here, so the volumes all around it will be wrong. Yeah, that looks better. Connect that up. Okay, let's get the inflate tool. Just alt this area. Oh shit. Can't wait to retopologize the ears again. Okay, let's go back to the original ref for a moment. I'm sorry, I know this isn't the original ref. Let's actually just quickly get that in. So it's good to use scan ref from time to time. Even if it's not accurate to your sculpt, there's a lot of secondary forms that you might miss. Because one of the lovely things about skin is it's like tons of subsurface scattering, which looks fantastic, but is really bad for reference because it hides so much. Like I guess the most visible one is skin pores. Like if you ever look at the actual depth of skin pores, it's insane, but you'd never tell from looking at a face. Like the amount of subsurface scattering just kills the feeling of depth. Like it's gone. There is no getting it back. So scan ref, even if it's not necessarily the person you're going for, can help you see forms that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. Because what I can do is sculpt these forms in and then go back to my ref and be like, okay, that one is objectively wrong, but this one might actually be right. So then you kind of do tweaks. How high res is this image? It's relatively high res. this is a bit wrong in mine. Okay, so let's get the angles corrected again. His brow is actually the wrong shape right now. Mine looks a bit too angry. Like, I feel like that needs to slope down a little bit. And that... No. Something's off. That might have been it. Well, that might have been the main thing that's bothering me, not necessarily the full issue. Okay, let's just make his ear more pointy, as ref demands. Soften that in a little bit, but not completely remove it. Earlobe is a lot more square in its attachment, which to me says it needs to do that. See, didn't his ear have more of a pointy out thing from the front? It did. So there's something I need to do then to compensate that from this 3/4. Pull it forward. Straight from there, round from there, straight from there. Let's find a side ref. God fucking damn it. Okay, so I guess that needs to go that way. To remain straight from that angle. And round from that angle. Yeah, so his ear just tilts in a lot. I don't think I have any images of the back of his ear. So we are going to have to get inventive back here. I'm not going to worry about the kind of volume thing that we all have here. Not yet, anyway. I'm just going to try to get the feeling of this area correct. Need to get the back of the skull right as well, but still focusing on the face. At some point we'll need to do the body. Although I won't be doing the body today. This jaw is really weird. That feels way too pointy for me. Yeah, it is. It has two planes. I haven't got either of them. Needs that. That fixes a lot of it. It's a bit defined, isn't it? Okay, let's lower the Z intensity a little bit. Okay. When working on a portrait, what part of the project do you feel least comfortable working on? Likeness sculpting, currently. Yeah, likeness sculpting is something I really struggle with. Like, it takes me a lot of iteration. I feel like it probably takes me more iterations than it should for the years I've been doing this. But that said, I also really suck at rigging. And this project I kind of need to do just a tiny bit of rigging just to kind of get it in pose, because I want to treat this project like proper pipeline. I want to do this the way it would work if I was doing this sort of thing, which means sculpt it symmetrically, get everything on it, rig it, blend shape to get the final match, and kind of get what I need through the whole process like that. Which is naturally going to mean I have to do a little bit of rigging, and face rigging is something I've literally never done. So, who knows? That'll probably go terribly. I'll probably end up just having to do a blend shape. Like, literally just blend shape. This angle's really bad, oh my god. Why is this angle so bad? Is it this? I think it's that. Helps, but not much. Why is this angle so bad? Is it the weakness of the chin? It's just, I know he doesn't have a strong chin, but maybe. No, there's something else to it. What have I fucked up? The chin is a problem area, but I can't figure out. I feel like this. Oh, hello. I feel like this just needs to. That helps. Still feels wrong though. Now this angle feels incorrect. Forehead's too big, isn't it? Or the eye's too low. The eye's too big. Feels a bit better. Yeah, absolutely. We should fix the skull. So widest point currently on mine is here. It should be like here. So let's just get that. Get an actual skull shape on this. Okay, then this bit back here. Currently doing this without ref, which given my current lack of anatomy skills is going to be a problem. Okay, let's save this. I'm tempted to try getting this into Katana now, just to kind of see how it actually looks, like lighting-wise. So I guess I'll do that. I'm gonna black out my screen for a moment, and then I'll just launch Katana. There we go. Waiting for Katana to open now. What I'll do is I'll pick up the Pero and just wipe everything out the scene. I also downloaded a bunch of HDRIs from Polyhaven, or HDRI Haven, as it used to be known. So I'll probably use some of those. Guess while we wait for this to load up. This bit needs bulking out. Feeling a bit better. Okay, so we got that. Let's go into deplugin, Decimation Master, geometry, delete lower. Leave that to do its thing for a moment. In the meantime, get Katana open. Grab the latest Pero. Okay, so we're going to need to just wipe out most of this, honestly. Okay, so the only thing I need in this, don't need these, by extension don't need that, don't need that. Don't need any of these currently. Don't need any of these. I'll keep them though, because they'll be helpful for later. Base matte I do need. Assign the base gray. And we need to wipe out all of these. Fact. MA. John Singer. Let's just quickly copy paste that where we might need it. Keep those for a little while. Okay. Z plugin. Oh, I need to. There we go. Hey, is it Emreka or Emrika? I'm guessing it's Emrika. Nice to see you on the stream. I think this is the first time I've seen you here, so welcome. There we go. So let's export this. Just quickly change its export settings. Export, modeling, ZBrush, block out exports. John Singer Sargent. Okay, there we go. So now let's get into Katana. Quickly go to this guy. And I'm just going to change this. So let's go to Maya. No, not Maya. ZBrush exports. I was looking for an Alembic. Can I import an OBJ? Is it possible to import an OBJ? Should be, right? If I just drag this in, does it create the node? No, okay. Can you export Alembic from ZBrush? So I'm going to search import obj katana. Let's see what the node is. Both, whichever you want. I'll go with Emrika because it sounds more like a name that I'd know. Emrika, just to me, sounds like I'm pronouncing something wrong. Can I go just file import? No, I can't. Okay. Does ZBrush have an Alembic exporter? Let's see. ZBrush Alembic export. Import and export. Okay, I guess I can go into Maya. Import there. Let that do its thing. Okay, you've seen. I'm just going to drag and drop that into there. There we go. Then okay, there we go. Let's go Alembic. Export selection to Alembic. Let's go to modeling, ZBrush, block out, exports. Current frame. Cool. So now we can import it. Definitely need to find a nicer way to import things. Okay, I'm just going to move that onto the other screen for a second. In fact, I'm going to save it and close it. There we go. So let's go with okay, I need to delete that. I remove item. Add Alembic. There you go. Right, so SceneGraph. Let's get this open. Jesus. Okay, then you can go into the viewer. Okay, we don't need any of these. Test cam. Definitely don't need these. Don't need that. Don't need that either. Okay, let's go to test cam. Okay, let's go into our scene graph. Go to light. I'm just gonna enable that and enable that. And let's save this scene. Personal projects. Let's go to John Singer Sargent, look dev, katana. I should shorten this. Let's just call it look dev 01 for now. We can always get back to it later. Okay. I just want to start a live render of this guy. I need help, Mike. About XGen, I painted density mask in ZBrush, but don't always know how to use it in Maya. Tried a few ways, it's not worked. So, using painted maps in XGen. Oh god, okay. It's not too difficult to do. It's very difficult to show when I'm not in Maya. Basically, this is going to create a lot of junk data, but let's just do it. Smooth. Okay. So, what we're going to want to do is let's go to XGen. That's fine. Okay. So, when you create this map, what's going to happen if we select this? If we select the mesh and go into the hypershade, what's going to happen when we create this map is we're going to get a brand new file node appear. That one right there. What you want to do is you'll see how it's the name of the object, then the collection of the groom, the description of the groom, and then the name of the map. So you just go into this and set image name to be the one that you import, and then you just kind of hit this paint icon again. It will reload it, and you'll get the map, and then you can just like basically hit this, get it, save the texture, save the ptext, and it will reconvert it each time. As long as you're loading it from an image, you can't overwrite that original image. But yeah, that's the kind of key to it. Okay, so let's get rid of disk light and just quickly go into the material of this guy. So obviously he's more side lit, like he's lit from this side, but we're not going to worry about that yet. Let's get into trying different images. Okay, so we got asset library, and then we got HUI Haven. Let's go with outdoor, and let's try autumn forest. Okay, and I guess we should replace the shader with something else. But before we do that, let's try another map. Let's go with this one. Yeah. What indoor ones do we have? What image format should I use for this? Off the top of my head, I honestly can't remember. Just try Try TIFF. TIFF would be my first bet. If not, PNG should work, or JPEG. Obviously JPEG will always work, but that involves using JPEG. JPEG is one of those things where it's fine, but don't use it by default. Okay, so let's quickly adjust the material this guy has. Well, let's into basement here. Okay, let's update that and update materials. Should I do like a marble like shader? Just something quick. Okay. Let's do like a marbly kind of color. Let's grab that color, put that into subsurface as well. And let's get a clear coat on top of that. In fact, what does film do in this case? Nothing, apparently. Slightly higher than that. There we go. That is like a base material for us to use. Right, okay, so let's try out some other lighting scenarios. Okay, so how does this look if I rotate it? Like, is it always so flat? Kind of interesting. What if we flip that 180? I need a bit more subsurface, don't I? Okay, maybe not that much. Radius also needs to change. Let's copy that color in there. Okay, let's half that radius. Give us something a little bit more tasteful. And then let's make it like 50% diffuse, 50% subsurface. Then anisotropy. Let's go a little bit higher. gives us a slightly more kind of skin-like effect. Try some different rotations. Let's try 90. 270. Okay. A little bit flat overall. He's downloaded some more images as well. I think the indoor ones are overall more successful. Oh, the outdoor ones, sorry. Let's try this one. Can't remember which one was which again. Wasn't that one. A1 is a bit higher contrast than that. This one was really high contrast, right? Yeah, this one's extremely high contrast. Definitely too much for the needs of this. Okay, so now let's find a rotation that works. Let's go with, let's start with 90. Okay, let's go 110. We need it to just get the eye. Let's go 100. Cool. Well, we have a face. It's a start. We'll give it that. Okay, so I'll probably do like maybe another hour worth of sculpting. Should I even? What's the name of this one? Autumn Forest. Let's just quickly name that. Okay, and then duplicate it. Mute that one. Browse. Go back to mine, which is in projects, lit environment, scene textures, HDRs, and then TX. I can swap between these two whenever I feel like it. I think it needs to be pumped up a little bit. Okay, 200. $180. There we go. The hair's going to be carrying so much weight on this likeness. But it's a thing. It's a thing that we can work with. So let's kill that there. what we'll need to do in the next stream is get... God, that line becomes much more pronounced. What we'll need to do in the next stream is... how do I drag that? Yeah, so like next stream we'll need to line up some lights, I think. Line up some cameras even. Okay, let's get PRF back. Load recent. Okay, so let's try to get that hollow eye thing going. I'm gonna go with version 3. In fact, this is the yeah, it is. There we go. Cool, so let's go save. Okay. Okay, there we go. So his nose seems a little bit wider than mine. That works. Okay, so mouth. What are we gonna do about the mouth? His old eyebrows are so cool. This part of the ear seems a bit too flat. That's better. The mouth side angle is going to be, I think, the worst bit to get right. feels better. Okay. This angle's not steep enough. Neither is that one. I feel like I should get a beard mesh on there a little bit. Eye shape is way off. Yep, PNG is working finally. Thank you again, Mike. No worries. Glad to be of help. Yeah, one of the biggest problems with working with XGen is having to interact with that artisan tool. Because that tool that you're currently using, the paint tool, isn't a XGen tool. It's a Maya tool from a long time ago. Most of people's issues with XGen, or like the ones that I see people bitch about most, tend to be related to that tool. Okay, so that is drooping just a bit too much. I'm gonna do something blasphemous for a second here and round out the bottom of the eye. Tail line, but it helps get a little bit of something else to the eye. There's a bit of a lip here, so maybe that line that I removed ages ago was probably something worth keeping. And I need to add some thickness to the eyelid as well. Like actual thickness, not what it currently has. Let's remove that. Standard brush would be better suited for this. Okay, this is interesting. There's like a plane change there, which I didn't notice before. It's like line right there, where the lighting gets suddenly darker. Which could be a very peculiarly placed. I can't say it, but you know which word I mean. It could be a weirdly placed light that's causing that plane change. But for me, it's more likely to be like this. Like that just connects over. And this lower eye bag in general is currently lacking. Okay, so that's a bit too pointy right now, but has a general softness that I like. Right. Yeah, let's get a color fill objects. I was wondering where my entire menu went then. Turns out I was just an idiot. Okay, so let's get a much darker color. Bit darker, a bit more desaturated. There we go. Something to be careful of is it is very easy to accidentally force your likeness with painting. So I need to make sure I'm not like enhancing forms that aren't there. I just need to like paint things as they should be. Okay, got that in there. Now the dangerous bit. Add a hint of eyelash without making it look like eyeliner. Which is just to darken this edge a little bit. To give the hint of eyelashes. Again, without making it look like eyeliner. It can be quite difficult sometimes. Let's just darken up the lips. And then nah, let's not do that. We can very subtly darken it at the top. But it can be quite hard to get this to read in a nice way. If we go to a flat material. Yeah, let's undo all that. Okay. So, beard mesh, I guess. So let's append. That's not what I want. Append sphere. Come on. There we go. Let's get the mustache in there first. Cool. Duplicate. Why have I made Shia LaBeouf? Okay, and then the last one is hairline, which we're just going to do like this. Skull shape isn't right, so I'm not going to focus too much on getting this exactly where it needs to be. Okay, let's go to extract. So I think it's in subtool. There it is. Okay, there we go. Let's check the other references. Okay, so he's got a very pointy forward beard, which which means it'll be doing something more like that. As it gets towards the sides, it's a lot softer. So we need to make sure it's not just like pulling his jawline all the way out. Okay, let's go geometry. No, polygroup, sorry. Auto group. Then get you, delete hidden. I'll get rid of the pieces that run the ears. Color fill object. Do the same for this guy. Although I might make him a little bit darker. Let's color fill object, then view, touch darker, color fill object. Then in all cases, PST. I'm gonna put some white hairs in there. Just to get the kind of feeling of this sort of stuff going. Also helps me plan the groom for later. Dynamesh. There we go. Oh, weirdly that benefited from not really having these, so let's just quickly knock those out. There we go, there's the first pass. So now the problem is, now I've sculpted the facial hair on, I need to fix the actual forms of the face. There we go. Definitely need to be careful that I don't drift too far from what he could look like with his jaw, though. To me, it's feeling a bit. I don't know. Something feels really off about the jaw. think I'll call it there. It's a good place to end the first stream. We've been streaming for how long? 2 hours 57 minutes. Yeah, sounds about right. Alright, cool. Well, there's the end of our first stream. Next stream we'll continue to kind of work on the likeness to get it a bit closer. Stream after that, probably line up some cameras. Maybe even do that in the next stream too. Because I will get the likeness as far as I can before I start retopo. Because I really want to topologize to his face. I'm not going to reuse my old topology. As much as like there's some people who just keep giving me shit over never reusing topology, I don't care. I just want to learn. Best way to learn is through repetition, so I'm just going to keep doing it. I don't feel like I've never made like a face topology that I'm actually truly happy with. There's always like compromises that I don't like. So I'm going to just keep doing it until I get one I really like. But yeah, so gonna come back, probably streaming tomorrow, maybe even later tonight, I don't know. It's the morning for me, well it's just gone 1 o'clock. So might stream this evening for anyone in the Eastern Standard Time zone. But yeah, so next stream, whenever that is, we'll continue working on the face, get it a bit closer, and then we'll probably move on to like an upper body at some point before we start retopo as well. Don't want to make the mistakes I made during Pero. But yeah, so that'll be it for now. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next stream. Right, bye guys.